To start this story off and give a little insight about me, I'm an 18-year-old female who grew up in Michigan, and I've lived in this country for as long as I can remember. And for heads up, this story is long, so bear with me. Now, to the story. On one particularly hot summer weekend, me and a couple of friends, including my boyfriend, let's call him Tony, and my older brother, who we'll call Brad, decided we were going to go camping for the weekend, since it was such a nice warm week. Tony's parents owned a cabin way out in Ludington, surrounded by a huge wooded area with a personal lake, and no neighbours for at least 4 miles. But being stupid teenagers, we didn't really think about that. All we were ready for was to party, like any normal teens would. Well, after being there for 2 hours, our fun had started. Tony's friends had brought tons of alcohol and weed to last us for the weekend, so we wouldn't be bored since we had no service and only movies to watch. After it got to around 12 AM, and it was pitch black, we had a huge bonfire going. It was a total of 6 people, including me and Tony. As we talked and laughed about the coming events in our lives, we were so distracted that we didn't notice that my brother had literally frozen his eyes onto one of the sections of the woods. Mind you, we were all intoxicated and high at that time. Eventually, our talking ceased when Tony realized that his friends and my brother had emotionless expressions. "Hey dude, you alright?" he asked. Silence. Brad didn't even reply or make any movements that would indicate that he heard him. After that, I started to get scared as well as the other 2 girls there. It took a lot for my brother to act that way. Eventually, I was the first to catch on that he was excessively staring into a certain spot in the woods. I turned my head and followed his gaze the best I could. And when I finally caught on to what he was staring at, my heart dropped. There, right fucking there, was, at first look, a dog. At least that's what I thought. It was some person's dog that wandered off. But then my brain kicked in and I realized there wasn't any neighbour for miles. So how could there be a dog? My mind started to race while Tony still tried to get Brad back to speak, or even move. In one motion, this thing stood up tall. And when I say tall, I mean gigantic. It had to be at least 6 foot tall. Everyone's seen it then. How could you not? The other 2 girls, and the other boy, with us, gasped as they finally grasped why my brother was as still as a stick. No one moved for what seemed like hours. Tony was the first to talk. "No tail," he mumbled. No one heard what he said but Brad. And I swear to you, when I say his eyes widened as big as saucepans, that freaked me out immediately. "What did you say?" one of the girls asked. "It has no fucking tail," he hissed at her. My heartbeat stopped. He was right. There was no tail on this thing. Suddenly, my clouded alcohol mind cleared up in a fraction of a second, when I finally realized what this thing was. Now I understood why my brother was basically shitting his pants. This thing was a skinwalker. My instincts kicked in right then and there, but before I could nub the fuck out of there, the thing let off a terrible stench like rotting meat, before screaming, inhuman-like. The sound was enough to scare the fuck out of everyone. My brother was the first to get up out of his chair, and he started shouting native words to the creature while I told everyone to get the fuck inside. No one questioned me when they seen just how dead serious I was, especially Tony. He's never seen me so scared, so he knew it was a bad situation. We all hightailed it back into the cabin, with my brother in tow still shouting native words at the creature, which seemed to help keep it at bay while it gave us enough time to get inside. He slammed and locked the door before turning all the lights off and grabbing a special ash from the kitchen counters and starting throwing it at every window and door while chanting. Of course, he had everyone freaked out and basically in tears at that moment. After he was done, no one said a word for a long time. All of us were still in shock. He grabbed our dad's pistol and had it posted by him for hours. Everyone was entirely too shaken up to even question what had happened. We must have fallen asleep eventually, because I woke up to my brother packing all of our stuff into the 2 cars early in the morning. I understood why. We had native family. We knew what we were dealing with, and we knew it would come back, and maybe not alone. Before we left, I did a blessing on the cabin, and spoke a few calming words to the still very freaked out girls. We left as soon as everything was packed. To this day, we still haven't explained exactly to our friends what happened that night, and they never bothered to ask us.